Today we're going to be doing an install on a 99 to 04 Superduty pickup front grille. This is for a 3-piece grill insert. We're going to be cutting out this center section and both side sections. So let me set up the tools that we're going to need and we'll get started. Okay, so I have some tools set up here that we're going to utilize for our install today. One is going to be a power drill of some kind. We're going to need a 3/16 or comparable drill bit. We're going to need a 4mm or 5/32 Allen or a Torx 25 to tighten our cap head screws. We're going to need a 7/16 and a 3/8 socket. We'll need a Phillips screwdriver. We're going to need a Sharpie or something to mark with. We're going to need some tape to tape off and protect the front side of our grill when we're working on it. As far as cutting tools go, nowadays there's just more options than there's ever been as far as tools that you could use to do a job like this. Since I have air, I would typically use air tools. I would use an air cutoff saw, or I would use an abrasive cutoff wheel. Since I think most people probably don't have air, I'm going to use electric today, and I'm going to use just a good old-fashioned Dremel. So you can see that I've already run some tape on the face of the grill to protect it, so go ahead and do that as a first step. Then after that, we're going to pull out our grill insert pieces, and I suggest taking this and overlaying it over the hole. This starts to give you kind of a visual perspective of where it's going to be sitting and where your cut lines are going to be. After that, grab a Sharpie marker, and what you're aiming to do is the center section slats, you're going to come in, basically try to cut it flush with this surface and this surface on the side. Come in maybe 1/8 of an inch from the chrome and just cut straight down. Same thing across the top, about 1/8 of an inch maybe. Like I said, you want to cut almost flush all the way around the side of this. On the side grills, you're going to locate the chrome edge, and then you're going to come in about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16, and that's where your cut line's going to be. Okay, so we've got it all trimmed out at this point. You can get a visual here at how things are cut. Again, it's about as reasonable as possible that you can get to the side. Again, as noted before, on the side vent areas, we want to find the chrome, come in about 3/16 of an inch, and do our cutting. Like I had said previously, it's always better to get out your side grill piece, overlay it, get the hardware out, look at how it's going to fasten. You can always take more off, you can't put more back on. Okay, so we take our grill insert and make sure that all these tabs are slightly bent in. These are made to bend a little bit. Bend all these to the inside so that when we drop it into the shell, none of the brackets are catching on the shell itself. And then go ahead and drop it in the hole. At the top, we've got a small little flange bracket, and we've got four center holes here. Short ones go at the top. They're going to lip on the grill shell, and it's going to bolt to the grill insert. On the bottom, same thing. It's going to lip over the edge of the shell, and then it is going to bolt to the grill insert. Take your cap head screws from the face, slip it through. Put your nut on. Okay, now we've got our 4 center brackets tight. Now you can see that it's going to hold the grill in place while we work on it. At this point, let's flip it over. And then seat one corner down where you feel comfortable and it looks good. Grab your Sharpie marker and come underneath. Mark your hole. Hold down your other side. Mark your hole. So we're going to flip this over. We'll drill those 2 holes. We'll loosely fit our screws in that hole. We're going to come back to the center. So we're going to do top corners, come back to the center, then we're going to move to the bottom corners and then to the center on the bottom. Okay, so I've got all my holes drilled except for my bottom 2 holes, and I've got all my hardware except for just these last 2 loosely bolted in place, finger tight. And all my corners look good. The top is looking really good. And the reason why I left the two center loose is to make sure that I have this reveal correct. And right now I can see that it is in a little bit, and that's why I left those holes open. So I'm going to grab my Sharpie. I'm looking at this across the face. I'm pushing it out to where I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to mark my hole. Okay, so now I have my 2 bottom holes drilled, checking the reveal from the outside. I have all my number 8 screws and nuts installed all the way around. And I'm going to take one last check and just make sure that I'm happy with the fitment. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything up. Okay, now I have all my screws and nuts tight all the way around. One note that I do want to make is that these 2 tabs that were used in the beginning of our installation to help hold the grill in place while we're working on it, I have noticed that depending on where the grills were manufactured, this lip can vary just a little bit. If you need to, these can bend very easy. Just grab a pair of pliers, bend the lip out of the way if you need a little bit more out and in adjustment. Okay, so now we've pulled out our side grills, and there's a couple different ways you can do this. One thing that I have found is initially it's always good to grab the according side, go ahead and stick it in place. Kind of get an idea of where it's going. Make sure that we don't bolt over any tape. Just kind of get an idea of how this is going to be fitting here. And you can kind of do it two ways. One way that I've done is just to leave it right like this and kneel down and get your nuts and washers and come in from behind. Or flip it over get this carefully up there. This might be a little bit easier. Get your nuts and washers, and again, like the center, just kind of get them all finger tight. Sometimes depending on how tightly you trim this lip, some of these could be a little bit more difficult to get on, but if you work at it, you'll get it. Get all these finger tight, flip it over, you can kind of adjust it around a little bit, make sure you're happy with it, and then go ahead and tighten them down. So we're taking our Allen cap head screws, coming around from the front, taking your washer, you can see there's one edge that's lipped over. That's meant to roll over the little side edge here of the plastic. These washers are slotted. You want to have them pushed all the way to the outside. And again, you got to fiddle just a little bit right here until you get enough in here that it'll hold it in place. So I've got both side grills up here and mounted. I just have one last bolt to do down here in the corner, and I just wanted to stress that during any time during your install, don't panic. If you have to come back and elongate a hole a little bit, or maybe even re-drill a hole, especially on these side grills, if one of these, depending how this got trimmed, if one of these lips is a little bit high and you need to come back and do a little trimming, don't panic, it's fine. Okay, so I've got all the bolts tight now. You just want to do a double check, go back over, make sure you're happy, make sure everything's tight. One note that I do want to make that I've overlooked a couple times is when we first started out, we had our two center brackets and these back ones to help hold it in place. Make sure to come back and get those, make sure those cap head screws are tight. Other than that, pull off your protective tape and you're good to go.